For a large part of R. Kelly's early days of his career, the RnB King was a very private person who had a whole long bright future ahead of him. He kept away from the media, and spent most of his time in his studio making music. But once in a while, he came out and took 1 or 2 interviews, and guess what? This was likely the worst mistake of his life. Whenever R. Kelly took an interview, it was perceived as an opportunity by the media to dig deep into his private life, and learn more of what Robert could have been hiding from everybody. To be specific, reporters wanted to ask more about his love life, and his close relationship with his newfound talent Aaliyah, a relationship that seemed rather so strong. R. Kelly made one of the worst mistakes of his career when he decided to take this particular interview accompanied by Aaliyah herself, wearing matching clothes, and sitting next to each other on a 2-seater couch. The two wore casual check dark-colored baggy weekend shirts that looked exactly the same, greenish casual pants and bright white twin sneakers that looked like a uniform. To be honest, they looked like a young newlywed couple on their honeymoon hiding in plain sight. To make matters worse, the two sat closest to each other, leaving significant empty spaces at both ends, and this was all a huge mistake. It is such media reports that made the world of reporters curious to learn more about R. Kelly's private life and attempt to build a case out of it. Sometimes problems come to us, but other times we attract them. R. Kelly and Aaliyah that day were likely going to some other weekend program when they decided to take a surprise interview, and this was not good PR for a celebrity artist like Robert. Whoever was managing R. Kelly's PR affairs did not do a good job advising the RnB King. Even if there had been nothing going on between the two, this move alone had the potential of creating enough suspicion that something was going on, and prompt an investigation in the matter. Celebrity artists always tend to get carried away by their celebrity status and imagine that the world is always out there to appreciate the things they do, their achievements and everything else but criticize their actions. With this assumption, they are always quick to lower their guard. And what follows is usually more than they could have ever imagined. They forget that they have a whole world of enemies and haters out there who enviously wish they were the celebrated ones instead. If they had the power to do this, they would gladly exchange bodies with you and become you. So when you give hungry wolves a platter of roasted meat, for God's sake, it will quickly turn into a meat rush, and you will be lucky to be left alive after they have had their long-awaited meal. In the life of a celebrity, even if you are doing nothing wrong, you do not want anything out there that makes the world curious to dig deeper into your private life. Anything that causes suspicions about your private life is a complete no-no. This may have been only one of those interviews R. Kelly took that were completely unguided. Something other artists and new celebrities should learn from never to repeat. It doesn't have to be about relationships or any other private matter of the sort. It could be anything that may put one up against the law, or that is likely to give people a reason to gang up on you. Like what Jussie Smollett did to himself. Completely destroying his career in an instant. It's never worth it making such uncalculated moves that could turn out suicidal or self-detrimental. According to Cointreau, this was not the only interview that contributed to R. Kelly's current problems. There are several of them that until today are still referred to and that are largely responsible for his misfortune. An example being the one during which the reporter asked the question, "Do you like underage girls?" All R. Kelly needed to do was say, "No, I do not." Looking rather unprepared for the inappropriate question, instead he asked the reporter to define underage. R. Kelly was likely never drilled well for interview situations like these. He always seemed to take interviews completely unprepared, and this could have contributed largely to his current situation. Another infamous interview was one where he walked out on a Huffington Post journalist who insisted on asking him about his private life, and not business as usual. Again, R. Kelly hinted on the fact that he was on holiday enjoying New York City and had probably just passed by to take this interview he looked unprepared for. Look just how it ended, with R. Kelly walking out before the interview could get started, and all this was simply bad PR for a big-time celebrity like him. These are situations he could have completely avoided by simply not showing up. He will finally get through this, but he and other celebrities ought to learn from the experience. You just cannot go into an interview unprepared. Worse still when you are a celebrity like R. Kelly. according to Paul Smith. During the interview, the pair were asked what their relationship was and Aaliyah was quick to say, "We are not related. R. Kelly and I are simply best friends." This was a good answer considering the short notice. But the bad thing is everything else from the way they dressed, to the way they sat was showing something different. This interview to me was just another very bad idea. It's important for celebrities to realize that they hold a lot of power when it comes to interviews. No one will force you to say a thing or to behave a certain way during an interview, because these events are usually voluntary. No one forces you to get on their show and answer their random questions. You must have agreed to it prior. These are some of the interviews R. Kelly could have been more prepared for or simply said no to. But when he decided to take them, each provided a building block towards his current situation. According to Laura Johns, each of those old interviews is an indicator that R. Kelly's private life has always been a mystery, and a subject of great interest by the media and the public as a whole. Why the likes of Jay-Z were never asked such questions, it's difficult to understand, because their lives were not any different from R. Kelly's. This is indeed a reminder that R. Kelly was the greatest of all. Usually, when you are so great, you are the most witch-hunted of all. Someone once told me that before you have people picking interest in your life and investigating you, or even hating you for it, it's a sign that you haven't started living yet. R. Kelly's life at that time was admirable for the star he had become, and the new stars he was raising. This was a young man at the top of his game and was doing so well. While so many people wanted to be like him, very many others hated on him. It takes God's grace to survive such attention and the things it comes with. R. Kelly sooner or later was going to become a victim of this attention that saw all eyes focused on him. The things R. Kelly did eventually became important to the world, and yes, this slowly ushered him into problems. Sometimes I try to imagine whether things would have ended up any different had he avoided these interviews, but I guess not. There is something called fate. When something is meant to happen, no matter what you do, it has to happen. Thank you for watching LFN News, a production of LFN Media, giving you another view of issues at hand. To get notified whenever we post a new video, subscribe to this channel now. And remember to give us your comment on the subject matter below.